Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shon. Coming up on this program, our interview with Rajat Shukla, a close friend of Shraddha, who was killed in one of the most horrific murders ever reported. The young woman's body cut up into 36 pieces, disposed of by her live-in boyfriend Aftab. This on a day when new horrific details are emerging. It now emerges that Aftab met Shraddha through the dating app Bumble. After the murder, Aftab used Shraddha's Instagram account to make it seem that everything was normal. Aftab used Shraddha's Instagram account to show that she was alive. He Googled how to clean a floor after the murder. Acid was used to remove blood stains. A mini saw was used to cut the body. The saw was disposed of as well in Delhi. Shraddha's mobile phone was disposed of in Mumbai. Days after the murder, Aftab was back on a dating app. 15 to 20 days after the murder, Aftab brought another woman home. Aftab put Shraddha's body parts in a cupboard when other women were brought home. So this is the mind of that killer. Joining us now, Rajat Shukla. He's been a very close friend of Shraddha in the past. Thank you so much, Rajat, for agreeing to talk to us. It's absolutely horrific what has happened, and we feel terrible about what has happened to Shraddha. But let me ask you a couple of basic questions. Firstly, was she the victim of domestic violence?
Yeah, she was. It was informed in the later part of the relationship itself that she was physically abused, and it was initially informed to the best friend of Shraddha, and then because we were in the same friend circle, we were a college friend circle, we were also informed about the same.
And for how many years did you know her?
I knew her for 4 years. That is from 2015 to 2019. I mean, I've been knowing her since then, right. But the communication that we used to have, that was like a non-stop communication, like day-to-day thing, that used to be there only till 2019. And post that, things changed. Shraddha herself changed, her behavior changed, and ever since then, the communication became a big distance.
When you say that this was there was domestic abuse which took place, in what details do you actually have of that? Because we are trying to understand the nature of the equation and how something like this could have happened in the first place. So could you share some more details of that, the domestic violence, the abuse?
I mean, it started with maybe some complications that they might have had, where beatings had begun, which somehow became a concern for Shraddha herself, and is the reason she shared it with her best friend that this is happening and the relationship is becoming toxic. However, even after that, Shraddha continued to stay with him, and also there were times when she used to say that she wants to leave him, but she was unable to. So that certainly gives me a question whether maybe it is that quite possible thing that maybe it's a matter of blackmailing, where Shraddha was strongly influenced by something that's hidden, that's not known to us, that's a secret to us.
Did she fear for her life?
Yeah, she did. So if I recollect, it is a matter shared by Shraddha's childhood friend, who then revealed that he got a message where he said that Shraddha was asking for help, and she was saying that you please rescue me from here, or else I feel that I would be dead tonight. That was the statement that Shraddha had given to Shraddha's childhood friend, and that was informed to us, which really shocked us. And that was the thing that I think happened when they were back from Himachal. Mm-hmm. And then we somehow thought that these guys will not continue to stay together. However, things changed. They again for the purpose of job shifted to Delhi.
Right.
That was a discussion, I think, in the month of March, but then in month of May,
Yep.
they actually did.
So how
but
did
but
friends
the
react?
the week they did.
Sure.
Yeah.
How did friends react when she stopped being in touch? And apparently, Aftab was using her Instagram to keep up this appearance of her being alive.
So since 2019 itself, I had seen like a lot of behavioral changes in her. 2018 itself, I would say. But in 2019, she was almost cut off from the whole circle of college or how we say Nitty and everybody. She was confined to only one person, that was Aftab.
Right.
One would think that it was just a matter of love where, two people think that the world is just around them.
Right.
That can be a case, and that's what we thought. But after hearing this brutality that, he used to do, that, he used to beat her up and all those things. So we certainly thought that there is a mess, but we were unable to decipher
really
that,
understand
why she's still
why she's there.
continuing.
But Raja, let me ask you,
Yeah.
what did you know of Aftab, and did anybody get a sense that he could actually do something like this?
See, Aftab seemed like a very normal person. I mean, a poker face, a person would not be able to really make out that, what kind of a person he is. If a person speaks like 4-5 things, you'll be able to spot out maybe by the way he's speaking, what he's speaking, the body language and stuff. But Aftab here was somebody, very tough to decipher,
Right.
that kind of a person. Because he at one stance shares about some very sensitive issues, talks about good things, creates a good impression in front of people, and then you see now he's doing such a horrific
Something as horrific as this. No, so
murder. I mean,
Rajat, tell me this.
yeah.
I mean, the fact that he's murdered her in this manner, and we now apparently we've been told, or we learn now, that shortly after this horrific murder, where he cut up her body in 35 pieces and removed it, he actually was bringing in women, right after the murder. In fact, even before disposing of the body parts, and that the body parts were kept in a fridge in the house. Are you worried that there may be other women or other victims, or people he was in some sort of relationship, even when he was together with Shraddha?
So after hearing all these things, it certainly gives me chills, and I think that Aftab was really the person few of our friends had met. Really that person, or is he some person with some very big mission? Is he associated with some terrorist organization? Is he into something absolutely inhuman? I mean, these are very big questions that are coming
He was a chef,
ahead
right?
now, because initially it was, it was said that he was a chef, a professional chef. He used to do nice cooking, chopping, cutting, and all of those things. It was seen on his social media as well. But then seeing him, I mean, doing such brutality, cutting a person in 35 pieces, absolutely not a thing that a person can even dare of doing. And once if a person, somehow by the in the heat of the moment, does something, and the person next loses life, the person will still be afraid. Think about.
And he wasn't afraid. He
the
clinically
superlative
went
form,
about
what
the
he did
process
next.
of chopping the body and removing it.
Yeah.
And I think what was most bizarre, I mean, all of it is bizarre, was that he actually stored food for him to eat in that same refrigerator where body parts were kept. I mean, I don't know what to say.
It's horrific. And this is totally inhuman. And apart from that, I think it seems impossible for me to digest that this person is some normal person. I think investigation should be done, not his words should not be considered, because these are all made up stories that he says that, Shraddha was behind him, she was compelling him for marriage. I think investigation should be done and should be searched and checked who this Aftab is, his connections are with whom,
And
he
also
has been
got onto this
in contact
app called
with
Bumble.
who all people before.
He also got onto an app
Yeah.
where he
So
met,
it was-
when he met women, and there were many of them apparently who he met, or quite a few. And they all, and some of them at least came to the
Yeah,
same
I mean,
house.
True. So, so that's what we are informed right now, and that again is a very big shocker. If live-in relationships are like this, I am afraid anybody in the world would be hearing and knowing about this story where a murder happens and the person is still continuing to date.
Tell
This
us
is
a
one
little bit
case that
about
has
the
come out.
father, because
Maybe there are 100 more cases like
in
this.
the FIR, the father says that, for a couple of years he's not had any relationship per se with her. She said that it's my life, I'll do what I want.
Yeah.
Is it true that the family never
That's
wanted
true.
her to get into this relationship? Or did they have a problem with the live-in
Well,
relationship?
that's true. I mean, in a way, I would say that we people, are getting modernized. We are adapting to various new things, but the parent generation and also a lot of people around us
Sure.
still believe there is some authenticity of India, the culture, and people still like to stay old school style, and they want to be in their own society. They have a boundary
Right.
which they have set, and the boundaries are for good. It has been happening for thousands of years. So crossing those boundaries really brings up something which is totally unacceptable, and sometimes heinous crimes of this sort really shocks everybody.
So
and,
one final question to you,
it
Rajat. I
becomes,
mean, we're
like,
all completely, utterly shocked by this. Could you share one memory of Shraddha which you remember positively? A moment perhaps where she was happy, a moment where, you may have had a great chat, a conversation or an experience together. Is there, I'm so sorry that, you've got tears in your eyes. But could you tell us or share with us something?
She was a very active girl. We used to do theatre together, and she used to act very nice. She was very expressive. We used to call her 4G. She had a pixie cut hairstyle, and she used to stand out in the crowd. She had that spark in her.
And
But
you
this
actually-
man just came and
Yeah.
took her away.
Look, I'm terribly sorry to, to hear of the loss of your friend, and I'd like to thank you for having the courage to actually come on board and talk about her and bring to us also those wonderful memories that you've had of her in the past. Thank you very much indeed. Well, joining us now, Kavita Krishnan, Dr. Kiran Bedi, and Dr. Rajat Mitra, who's a criminal psychologist. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us. Kavita, you saw that interview as well, and I've also gone through a series of points which you've actually focused on. The last point that you've spoken about or you've written about is the moment a murder is looked through the prism of is this love jihad or not love jihad, then we are not focusing on the crime over here. We're in fact focusing on something else. And yet, if you look at the way it's playing out on social media, it's incredibly disruptive. It's horrific, absolutely.
Vishnu, the point is, I think that point I put in precisely because I don't want that to be a distraction, and that's why I don't want to talk about that really here. I feel that I listened to the interview just now with her friend, and there are some observations I had there.
Go ahead.
Exactly what I had written about. That basically such an incident happens not out of the blue. I'm afraid it is very common, although yes, it's horrific. Certain details are horrific. But the point is that unfortunately, this whole idea we have that normal men do not do this, that this has to be some kind of abnormal person or some, criminal, some terrorist. I'm afraid not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, all over the world, serial violence against women by men, violence by intimate partners, which goes on, which is cruel, sadistic, which is absolutely horrific, even before the actual killing happens. All of this, I'm afraid, is a reality which, as a feminist activist, I've dealt with for decades. Okay. And sadly, I think the whole problem is this, that even friends who know that this person is facing violence, who know that she's isolated, who is completely cut off from whose parents have cut her off, whose friends also don't really know what to do when they realize that they think it's love, that two people, that she's completely cut off from her friends. That's never love. Never.
No,
these are all a series of red flags. So I wish that the public conversation could be more about what are the signs, the warning signs, the red flags that we need to recognize, that where the society also needs to intervene. See, the job of the police starts later. The point is that where society has to take domestic violence seriously, never believing that this is a bickering, this is a quarrel, this is, a love, whatever. Just the very fact that a woman is isolated from her friends and family, that is a red flag. And secondly, this whole idea that, family, basically, these are all boundaries. And if you cross the boundaries and such terrible things happen, maybe live-in relationships are not good. Sorry, those are the wrong takeaways. The point is that this kind of violence happens in love marriages. It happens in arranged marriages. It happens in live-in relationships. It happens all over the world. And the real takeaway here should be that we need to understand that parents, if they don't, if the minute they tell their child that you've crossed a boundary and so now because of your choice, even if they think that choice is a mistake, even if this man turns out to be a monster, the point is that if parents are not there to assure their children that no matter what mistake you make, we are with you. We may criticize your choice, we may not agree with you, but if you have the least problem, we are here unconditionally for you.
That's important.
The sad part is that I think these are the things we need a public conversation about.
Let's start that conversation a little bit, Dr. Bedi. Again, reflecting on the points that were mentioned over there by Kavita, she talks about the need for a campaign for timely action against domestic violence before it escalates. There's no real conversation on the run-up to a relationship going sour. And red flags and when people need to get out of it and the role of family and friends. Secondly, a demand that governments ensure sustained, non-judgmental, respectful support and help and shelter for victims of domestic violence. Why don't we talk about these 2 points, ma'am? Firstly, timely action, and secondly, if there is violence, if there is abuse, then shelter. Shelter not just physically but shelter perhaps psychologically and emotionally as well. Dr. Bedi?
In many parts, I would agree with Kavita. I too was of the view, as I thought about this case, that I think our women, our young girls, need to become more courageous. They can fall, the emotions is one part. The second is, if Kavita, I did nod my head. Could you please stop disturbing me by nodding your head? So I'll be grateful. That's total respect. So thank you, Kavita. Now, what I'm saying is, while the investigation will take its own course, Vishnu, police is going to do its job. It's handled such like cases with exemplary professionalism, and we know of the convictions which happened. You have the Nirbhay case, which became a serial. But I think our young women also need to see these early signs of violence and put a full stop to something, or cry out, or raise a red flag, or connect with friends. Why must our young, educated women who think they have I think they have a capability of economic self-reliance unless they're financially totally dependent. Why must they continue to give in? Here's a case, apparently, who's probably giving in all the time. And secondly, as what Kavita said, families must not give up. Families must stay connected. Friends must stay connected. If there's been a runaway case like this of this girl, so families must stay connected. Friends must stay connected. In a case where the woman has become incommunicado, I think that's a flag that to be found out. Where have you gone? Because if they're just on their own, you never know what's happened. So you may not. The third, any man, when in the family, when a woman watches that he's watching too much of these kinds of crimes, and his behavior is also becoming abusive, and he's almost copying something or he's walking the trend, I think it needs to become very alert. Our young women, I think, need to become more courageous and not go beyond emotions.
All right, ma'am, I get the point that you're mentioning.
Vishnu, I do have to
re-educate our teenagers.
Please.
I think we need to make them courageous.
Okay, Dr. Bedi, half a second.
And no, Vishnu, I really need to intervene really briefly.
Yes, just before I go to Dr. Mitra.
If you're a woman facing domestic violence and you're watching this, please know that, it is absolutely wrong for anyone to tell you that you lack courage to leave. Never. You have all the courage. Women all over the world are fine. All over the world, this is a thing. People say that at least 7 attempts women make to leave. If you want to watch the serial Maid on Netflix, you can. It also makes this point that women make at least on an average 7 attempts to leave before they successfully leave an abusive relationship. Your earning capacity and your education, these are non-factors. The whole point is that the very nature of this kind of abusive relationship, which affects women, is dealing with this. The number one rule is that you cannot shame that person by telling them that they lack courage. The first thing is to say that we are flipped here. You will have the. Please let me finish. You have the important.
Okay, both of you, 1 second. Both of you, one moment.
They have the control.
You both made points. I don't want to make this a one versus one. This is not that kind of discussion. Hold on. I'm running out of time. Dr. Mitra, a lot of people want to know, Dr. Mitra, how exactly or why exactly would a man have the ability, an educated person, to actually do this? How does the psychology of a killer like this work?
Okay, thank you, Vishnu. I'll speak as a criminal psychologist,
yes,
and
please.
I've seen several, cases which closely resemble this. The first thing I think to keep in mind is that I have seen hundreds of cases of domestic violence or relationship violence. I have not seen a case like this in which a body has been chopped up and systematically decapitated in this manner. So this puts it in a, there are different types of violence as we talk of it: rare, mild, extremely high, and unique kind of violence. This is a unique kind of violence which more puts it in the category of a serial killer kind of crime that I have seen wherever I have seen in the world, where such crimes takes place. So this kind of a person would have the mind of a serial killer, or is going to be one in the way he is doing a blitz attack, decapitating the body, and then, chopping her off. Such people have 2 characteristics. One is that they are explosive personalities. They are extremely full of anger, and they, snap. They decide to snap at a point where they decide to kill. And I think that, looking at his past history as a criminal psychologist, the fact that he was used to chopping, the fact that he was used to doing things like that, it's some,
as a chef,
yes, and as a chef, it's somewhere mixed with his fantasy of killing the person, and that became his tool, and that is what, probably he would be, using that as a fantasy. Such people plan. They are not impulsive criminals. They plan the crime long way in advance about what to do. And also there is something else about the crime, the asphyxiation nature, that usually is seen in crimes in which there is a sense of injustice involved, a sense of perceived injustice which you try to undo by killing the victim. You try to alternately strangulate, and you try to alternately let go. This kind of crimes often follow that pattern where a person is undoing injustice which he feels that has been done to him. These people see themselves as victims. They don't see themselves as perpetrators when they commit the crime. So And it is extremely difficult to correct such people. It is extremely difficult to change such people. And as I know, these people are also very charming. So like what her friend said, that he is a very nice person. He was always very nice. And I'm sure that, that is what you would see about him. He's very charming. So it's very difficult to know that, what he's like until and unless you come to a disagreement with him and understand that he's the kind of person who cannot take no for an answer.
Sure.
He would explode and go ahead and would convert
Dr.
his
Mitra, thank you
fantasy.
so much for helping people like us understand what a killer can be. A killer doesn't look a particular way.
No.
A killer doesn't need to not behave in a conventional manner. But
No.
there are times when things go terribly wrong, as has taken place in this case. Let's remember Shraddha. Let's spare a thought for her family and her friends. This is something we'll track very, very closely. It's a horrific crime that we all need to reflect on. We'll take a short break, come back with more.